Good job. Yeah, hello everyone.
Hello, bro. Please, are we starting?
Yes, Prof. We will start soon.
All right, that's fine.
Please, Bredo, please put how
Hello.
soon we'll be starting.
Good
Put an
afternoon.
announcement how soon. Yes.
Please, can
Afternoon.
you hear me?
Yes, Felicia, we can hear you.
Hello. Please, can I be heard?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
I'm actually having a lot of internet troubles this afternoon.
Yeah, we can hear you. Your voice is clear if you can hear us.
Hear meeting. Hear meeting. When?
Good afternoon. Please, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Felicia.
Yes, please, we can hear
Oh,
you.
my goodness. Sorry about this. The internet connectivity at where I am has decided to mess up at a very crucial moment. I've not been able to get connection, but it doesn't look stable. Please pardon me. So I will start whilst for a better place for us to start. For the delays.
Hello, Felicia. Can you start?
Yes, sir. I'm
Looks like
relocating to get internet connectivity.
you have two connections on the platform. You have two connections. I don't know which. You have one.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
come for please. Okay.
But we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm just trying to reconnect again and then I would come on. Okay, so I think I'm good now. All right. Oh, Auntie, it's hot this afternoon. I think. Okay. Let me see this. Hello? Am I clear now?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to apologize for the delay and all the internet problems. I apologize for all of that. I'm sorry for having delayed this meeting. So we are all welcome this afternoon to a very important session that we are having this afternoon to discuss food marketing regulations. You would all appreciate the fact that we are in times where we are having a lot of surge in non-communicable diseases in the country and globally for that matter. Hence, it is very important that as an organization, the Ghana Academy of Nutrition and Dietitians, which have positioned ourselves as a very important entity in the space of nutrition in our country, to begin to look at how we can inform ourselves, better appreciate the dynamics in the food marketing industry, and then how that can help us to perform as nutritionists and dietitians, and also drive the discourse in terms of policy and the likes. This afternoon, we are very privileged to have two distinguished gentlemen. But before I go straight into that aspect, I would want to welcome each and everybody this afternoon for making time out of your busy schedules to come and be with us this afternoon as we delve into this topic. We would begin with an opening prayer. I know we are in Ghana and we are very religious people, so we'll begin with an opening prayer. And not to delay it, I would give the opening prayer. So shall we pray? Father, we thank you this afternoon for bringing us together. We are grateful for the moment you have given us. We commit this afternoon into your hands, and we ask that your presence will prevail and help us to be able to digest this topic to the glory of your name. In Jesus' name we have prayed with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen.
Please, can you kindly just type in the chat box if you can hear me? And if you can, just let me know where you are connecting us from. If you're in Kumasi, just type Kumasi, Tamale, Kintampo, wherever, just so I know that I'm clear and loud. Thank you very much. I can see Winnie Bar. Okay, Kumasi, Tamale, great. So I can see that distance is no more a barrier. Tema, awesome. Wow, fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so we'll go straight into the business of the day. And without wasting any much time, like I mentioned before, we are, oh dear. Right. We are gathered this afternoon. Okay. We are gathered. Hello. So many. Wonderful. Okay. So we are gathered this afternoon to look into a very important topic, food marketing regulations. And today, to help us understand this very important subject, we have with us two distinguished gentlemen. And even before I go to them, let me let you know who I am. My name is Felicia Ej Danso. I'm a chief nutritionist with the Ghana Health Service, and I am in Tamale. And I'll be your moderator for today's session. Thank you very much for having me. So today, as we have gathered to have ourselves informed to help ourselves appreciate what the food marketing industry is all about. Others are saying they can't still hear me. Hello?
Yeah. I think go ahead, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
We'll help
Right.
them.
So, I mean, as we navigate an interesting and increasingly complex food market environment, it is very important that we understand the regulations that govern food marketing, since it's an ever important space. These regulations are designed not only to protect consumers from misleading claims and unsafe products, but also to ensure fair competition among food producers. Whether you are a marketer, a product developer, a legal advisor, or a business owner, in fact, a nutritionist or a dietitian, staying informed about these regulations is very crucial for the success of your work and the compliance of the food industry. Today, we will cover two important aspects of the topic. The first one is tackling NCDs, the role of food marketing regulations in promoting healthy diets. Then the second aspect is from label to table, how marketing regulations can shape healthy food environments. Today, we are very, very much honored to have a panel of esteemed experts who will share their insights and experiences with us. The first is Professor Reginald Annan, and I would introduce him since he will be the first person to speak on the topic, tackling NCDs, the role of food marketing regulations in promoting healthy diets. So, Professor Reginald Annan is a senior lecturer at the Department of Biochemistry and Biotechnology, KNUST, with a doctorate degree in nutrition, human nutrition, and also a master's degree in public health nutrition, both from the University of Southampton. Professor Annan brings a wealth of experience in nutrition, public health, and research to the virtual stage. With a distinguished academic background and over 15 years of experience, Prof. Annan's work focuses on critical areas such as acute malnutrition prevention, obesogenic environments, and nutrition-related non-communicable diseases. Professor Annan's research efforts extends to understanding the complex interplay between nutrition, physical fitness, cognition, and social economic factors among all age groups. His interventions have positively impacted the health and well-being of pregnant women, mothers, and young children, reflecting his commitment to improving nutrition outcomes across diverse populations. He has collaborated extensively with esteemed organizations like the FAO, UNICEF, IAEA, and CMAM Forum, and the MSF. Professor Annan's consultancy work has influenced nutrition projects and programs on a global scale. His contributions to expert committees and boards, including the FAMUS and INA, and the World Public Health Nutrition Association, underscores his dedication to advancing public health initiatives. Currently, he is a secretary of the Ghana. So currently, Professor Annan continues to play a pivotal role in shaping nutrition policies and practices at both national and international levels. He is the chair of the nutrition group on the Gand, and he continues to make valuable resources for discussions on nutrition, health interventions, and sustainable public health strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, please, with a wave of emojis, help me welcome Professor Reginald Annan to speak on the topic tackling NCDs, the role of food marketing regulations in promoting healthy diets. Prof, you are welcome, sir. And please, my apologies for keeping you waiting. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Great. Okay, so thank you very much, Madam Felicia Danso, for the introduction. Quite long. Next time I'll shorten it. Very, very much short. It's not longer. This is long. This is an old introduction, so I'll give you the short one because the new ones are not long. Anyway, so I think it's a very important topic, tackling NCDs. And we have been talking about NCDs last year. We're on the sugar sweetened beverages, but this time around, we are looking at the role of food marketing and in regulating the food environment to promote healthier diets in order to tackle NCDs. And it is really important and topic for us we nutritionists, dietitians, public health practitioners to be, equipped with how to help address the issue of NCDs through the regulation of food marketing. And the outline is what I'm showing here. We'll look briefly about the NCD problem, the risk factors. Then I'll go into marketing and how it affects consumer behavior. Because somebody may say that, of course, what has marketing got to do with NCDs? It affects consumer behavior and especially children. So we'll go into children and then we'll look at the recommendations for marketing, especially with regards to children, in order to protect and promote their health, and then how to really design these marketing restrictions and what a likely impact, and then a few lessons learned from countries that have done well in doing things like this that Ghana can learn from in order to move forward. So, like I said, what are NCDs? We know, but let me just mention them. They are non-infectious, so it's not caused by an infection. They are degenerative diseases that really target organs and organ systems and develop over a long period and affect individuals over an extended period of time. So it's non-communicable, it's non-infectious, and it is really cumulative. And so develop over a long period of time, and then people have to live with it for forever. And I mean, which are the ones that we are interested in, especially for nutrition, cardiovascular diseases, especially heart disease and stroke, cancers, some cancers, there's the chronic respiratory diseases, diabetes, and a few others. Why are we interested in these few, even though there are quite a number? 77% of all NCD deaths occur in low and middle income countries like Ghana. And so it's a big thing that we have to talk about this few, and I'll show you how much proportion of the deaths are contributed only by these 4 NCDs that I've mentioned above. So a little more of the dilemma, the problem that we have to deal with. NCDs kill 41 million people each year, according to the WHO, and this is equivalent to 74% of all global deaths. So really, if we can get rid of NCD-related deaths, 3/4 of the deaths will be prevented. And this in each year, 70 million people die from NCD before the age of 70. So not only are NCDs causing a lot of the deaths, but also it's causing premature deaths, which is the age before 70, and even much more lower now. And 86% of these deaths are occurring in low and middle income countries. So what really that means is that NCDs is the low and middle income country problem. And if you look on the right, on the world leading causes of deaths, you can see ischemic heart disease, stroke, chronic obstructive. The first few are all NCDs related. A little more of the burden. Now, of these 41 million deaths, cardiovascular diseases alone, 17.9 million, cancers, 9.3 million, chronic respiratory disease, 44.1 million, and diabetes, 2 million. And these 4 account for 80% of these 41 million deaths. So if we can tackle these four alone, then of course NCDs will be really minimal and not insignificant in our society. And the reason why a country like Ghana should be talking about this is because low and middle income countries are the hardest hit by NCDs from what I showed you. But if you look at this diagram again, you can see that low middle income countries bear the greatest burden of NCDs. Upper middle income and high income countries are actually, managing and have managed to reverse the trends of NCDs, whilst low income and low middle income countries, which Ghana includes, is included, the countries that really are hardest hit by NCDs in recent times. When we come down to Ghana specifically, and forgive me for a longer estimate, because this should have been changed, but especially the GDHS 2023. But I just wanted to tell you that Ghana is not left out, even though we are saying low and middle income countries, which includes Ghana, specifically to Ghana, we are not left out. And the number of deaths from NCDs, the number of premature death also from NCDs, the proportion of people who are suffering from NCD-related conditions are on the rise in the country. And so it is not a problem that we can underestimate. And we really need to look at all the issues that are related to NCDs if we have to address the problem holistically and to get rid of it. And enough of the estimates. What are the risk factors? And I don't want us to think that NCD is all about just a diet. There are many risk factors. You can group them into various, and from the source I have provided, you have genetic factors, we have environmental factors, we have socio-demographic factors, we have factors of self-management, and we have factors of medical condition, which can be related to the self-management. The reason why I want us to talk about this is that, yes, there are factors we can't do anything about. The factors that we can't really change, like genetic, we can't change. But the factors that we can change, we must try to change them, because that is the opportunity we have to change them. But we also know that even among the genetic factors, now there's a diet nutrition relationships. We have nutrigenetics, where nutrients and nutrigenomics, where nutrients are actually changing the way the genes behave and changing, they are modifying the genes and then causing more diseases. And genes have been associated with changes in these genes have been associated with disease. So even at the factors that we cannot change, there is possibility that we can, and this is where personalized nutrition comes in, we can modify them and then reduce their effect. But among the factors that really we can do something about, which are the factors of self-management, you see tobacco, you see alcohol, you see physical activity, you see person's weight, you see food choice, that are really related to nutrition, and that we can do something about, and then we should do something about them. So clearly, the risk factors for NCDs include diet, includes physical activity, includes people's lifestyles. Why are we interested in marketing? We are interested in marketing because several studies have shown, I brought just this diagram as an example, but several studies have shown a relationship between marketing and buying behavior. Marketing affects buying behavior. Demography affects buying behavior. Psychology affects buying behavior, and environment affects buying behavior. But I want us to also know that marketing can influence buying behavior through psychology, because they can use psychological strategies to market in order to affect buying behavior. And marketing can also target specific demography in order to change buying behavior. And marketing can create an environment, a food environment that is unhealthy or healthy. So good marketing strategies can create good food environment, or the vice versa. If it's poor marketing strategies and overall buying behavior. So we need to be concerned. Nutritionists, dietitians, public health practitioners should be concerned about what is going on as far as the marketing space is concerned, because it influences buying behavior and influences people's risk. Then I want us to look at it also in a different way. What is, when we say marketing, somebody probably is thinking about going to the market to buy this, and yes, it is also marketing, but marketing is in diverse forms. And in recent times, digital marketing is a big thing. So email marketing, content marketing, social media marketing, electronic billboards. So that is not the normal traditional marketing that we know about. Mobile marketing, viral marketing, they are all forms of marketing that can be used that we may not specifically target because we know of the traditional ones. So I want us to know that when we are talking about marketing, let's not just narrow ourselves to the traditional marketing we know, and think broadly, and we have to influence those other spaces as well. What is happening in the digital space, we have to know, because all those forms of marketing have been associated with consumer behavior, as shown in this diagram. Should we be concerned in Ghana as far as the marketing space is concerned? Yes, because things that are related to poor dietary outcomes, and also poor nutritional outcomes, and then non-communicable diseases like unhealthy food, sugar sweetened beverages, alcohol, herbal medications and concoction, fat diet, magic bullets, prescriptions to addressing nutritional issues are all strongly marketed in Ghana in the way that is concerning. So you see all these examples of the pictures that and I'm sure you all have stories of how these things are being marketed. Alcohol, bitters, different things that they said is they have made them into bitters, but it's actually alcohol that is the base. Ethanol, pure high percentage ethanol, that sometimes they don't even know the percentage, is the base of all these bitters. And before you come to the unhealthy foods that are proliferating, and then in the food industry that drive unhealthy food that are also proliferating in Ghana, that is really, really concerning. And then fat diets and companies that are doing these fat diets that are now, and also the magic bullets that are now driving their marketing towards Ghana and poor countries, because they can see that the regulation elsewhere is stronger, and then the marketing space in poorer countries is much freer for them to do something. And so that is why we have to be concerned. And many of us see adverts on TV, see electronic adverts and so on and so forth that we feel very, very concerning. And so marketing issues should be addressed in Ghana. But now, let me narrow it down to children. Let me narrow it down to children, and this is for me why we must even be more concerned. NCDs that we know, it is, like we said, it is non-communicable, chronic non-communicable diseases that develop over a long period of time. It is quite cumulative. So when you see the adults that have all these NCDs that we are battling with, some of them have their many years when they were even children. It is known that childhood obesity really affects adulthood obesity, because if you know how the fat cells are metabolized, you know that the fat cells, they form even in children, they can form, and because they divide by mitosis. So the more as the child is getting bigger and bigger, the cells are becoming more and more and more. When the child gets into adolescence, when they are a bit more physically active and all that, the cells shrink. They shrink by removing their sticks, but the cells remain there, and they are ready to be filled up as children grow up and become adults easily. For children who are obese, are more likely to be also adults who are obese. And if you see an obese adult, it's very likely that they had obesity issues also as children, and that is why we must be concerned. that NCDs should, it's a problem that starts long, and it can easily be something that is tackling and targeting children. But we also know that even now, there are children who have NCDs. I'm not waiting to be adults. They have morbid obesity and they have NCDs. And also, NCDs have their origins in physical inactivity, unhealthy diets, unhealthy environment, and things like that can start earlier in life. So WHO says that they are investing in strategies to support children's healthy growth and development by preventing the accumulation of these risk factors. Children, because of the fact that it is cumulative, and then when you see the adults, it may have been something that started long ago when they were children. The other reasons why we should narrow it down to children and also adolescents, because they are more vulnerable to the marketing effects. Children and adolescents are exposed to marketing and unhealthy food and drinks in schools and other areas, in shops, outdoors, and all that. When they are playing their playgrounds, when they are watching sports, television, social media, sometimes they use the social media more than adults. Adolescents and younger school-age children may use them more and be more exposed than even us, the adults, and they are very, very, very vulnerable. Marketing appeals to them, and huge sums of money are spent to reach these children by the food industry, by the marketing and industry, which understands clearly, they know clearly that it appeals to children. And if they can also catch them that young, it is easier to keep them in that group. Especially, and that's how tobacco marketing was in those times, when they targeted younger adults, 12 years, 13 years, adolescents, to let smoking appeal to them. When they start smoking, they get hooked, they can't stop. You understand? And like I said, the marketing channels are less traditional than we know, like the billboard, print advertising, television and radio commercials, and more into social media, where the space of the children, which we may easily not even know that these children are there. So why should we restrict marketing for unhealthy foods that are targeted as children? Because, like I said, marketing threatens children's rights. And really, it's also the legal obligations of governments to address these issues. And like I said, the food industry is spending billions on marketing strategies to catch them young so that they shall be theirs forever. And also, there's also international support to do this. So remember some of the projects that have been done, HD4HL, advocacy for health, and all that tells us that there are international support if we want to rise up and do something about it. WHO is very supportive of these issues. And I show this diagram because, again, sometimes the way our psychological issues and our social fabric feels that a bigger child means that they are healthy can also make it even more and the marketing industry can use it, because they can bring start children to let you think that this is healthier, and then for the product that makes them healthier. And I want us to say that there's evidence to also know that there's evidence to show that there is predatory marketing in Ghana. There's a lot of evidence to show that. So our own colleagues, Gideon and Professor Amos La, have shown this when they have looked at and they've done an audit on marketing of unhealthy food in Ghana. And they show that most foods and beverages advertised to children are unhealthy, high in saturated fats, trans fats, fatty acids, free sugars, or salt, and dominated by ultra-processed foods. And where are they doing this? Outdoor spaces, school environments, and on television platforms. So the television adverts are coming at times that target children, because the children are way alive and not asleep the time they are doing them. Then their audit also showed that Accra Cape Coast Highway, 70% of the advertisement featured were sugar-sweetened beverages. And then another recent study in basic schools in Greater Accra, 70% of food advertisements featured unhealthy products in the basic schools. Then they also looked at assessment of food advertising on 3 popular television stations, not named here, And 60% of the food advertisement broadcasts were for unhealthy foods. Sugar sweetened beverages being predominant in all that. And so evidence for us to do something about this is very strong in Ghana. And so the Meals for NCD projects provided some policy recommendations. They said that number one, 6 of them, advertising within certain public areas, especially frequented by children, should be regulated. There should be zoning to make sure that these are the adverts don't reach certain perimeters and radiuses towards to the schools. They talked about legislation that will compel all food companies that advertise foods to declare nutrient composition, so that, and then mention ones that exceed certain recommended thresholds so that it will guide people. And they talked about stopping misleading
Oh,
advertisements
Oh,
through the usage of accurate claims. They talked
oh,
about, they also recommended promotion strategies or techniques that target children should also be regulated. They talked about implementing laws to prohibit the marketing of unhealthy foods, and then enacting and enforcing these regulations, especially the ones that push advertising of excess foods, excessive in added sugar, salt, and and so they do recommendation. And WHO clearly have set our recommendations on the marketing of foods and non-alcoholic beverages to children. This is where we come in. We must ensure that these recommendations are taken on by government and then passed. There are 4 recommendations by the WHO. As far as marketing restrictions are concerned, they said that there should be mandatory regulations for the marketing of foods and non-alcoholic beverages that are high in the salt, the saturated fatty acids, trans fat, sugar, and then salt. There should be protection of all children and under the age of 18. Please, can you mute yourself as it's distracting me? They said government should use a government-led nutrient profile model. So we must have nutrient profile models that also provide the rules of what should be on front of bag labeling and so on and so forth, what should be declared and all that, and that can help protect these children. And then we must also regulate companies because minimal risk companies can be used to advertise these products, and the ones that you think are basically not some companies you should be worried about. Others can channel their adverts to them to market it for them, and then in that case, their products get marketed still. But WHO says that for the country to really enact some of these policies, they have to look at the local context. There are things that we must look at, considerations when we are putting marketing restrictions. So local context is important, available resources, the legal system, political economy, how we can enforce them are also very important. And we must look at other issues as well, so that children's exposure to marketing by bordering countries or states. So you may have your restrictions, but the other bordering countries don't have the restrictions, and then it affects what and then things end up coming from there, or marketing strategies that and then impact your country from your bordering countries. And then they also said that when in passing some of these restrictions, you must be wary of opposition from especially industry, and there are millions and billions that they use in promoting this. They can always come and oppose us. And then you must also be concerned about the overall food environment, especially school food environment and nutrition policies and what they say, nutrition labeling policies and fiscal policies. Now, I'm glad that some of these things are coming up now because different policies are being written. We are writing currently they drafted currently several policies, front of pack labeling and profiling, nutrition profiling policies. We've also drafted the food procurement policy, and so on. And so these are things that once you have policies that guide how they should be done, then they can also eventually target and drag the food industry and then the marketing industry to do the right thing. So finally, what can we learn from countries that have done well? And sorry, I put the sentences there because just for us to see clearly what has happened. So in South Korea, a special act on safety management of children's dietary life resulted in 81% reduction in the volume of unhealthy food advertising. So policies can work. A systematic review and meta-analysis found out that children were exposed to unhealthy food and beverage marketing were 10% more likely to select the advertised foods or beverages. So it's clear that it affects them. In Chile, the proportion of cereal packages using child-directed strategies pre-implementation of marketing restriction was significantly lower post-implementation. Australia and UK model estimated that if unhealthy food and beverage television advertising were eliminated during daytime hours, children's energy intake would decline. And that same model showed that if this is done, BMI of children will decline. And it will have an impact on chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and cancer. So there are lessons learned and the good examples that we can learn from that that restrictions are important. So in conclusion, I just want to say that the NCD rise it's a real problem and is driven by advertisement and by marketing of unhealthy food. And our children and adolescents are most vulnerable. And the issue is that when they are also targeted as children, then they can be hooked as adults. There are recommendations that can restrict marketing, and Ghana must take them up and then make sure that we run with them. And there are also good examples and lessons that we can learn from those that have done well. And I just wanted to say that I also end by saying that we need strong marketing regulations by for FDA to implement some of the regulations that they have. Don't give them the mandate to restrict things the way we want them to be. And I want us to also end by saying that the role of the nutrition workforce, which includes all nutritionists, dietitians, public health practitioners that are interested in NCDs, cannot overestimate it. And we need to come together. We need to bring all the stakeholders on board and to drive this issue around restricting marketing in order to tackle NCDs in our country. And so on that note, thank you very much for your time. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to discuss.
Okay, thank you so very much, Prof, for that elaborate presentation. So we have 2 hours to do this. So I would indulge that if you have questions, just hold on whilst we take on the second presenter. Then afterwards, we can have some time for questioning. So just take note of your questions so that you don't forget them. However, I would want to remind us that please, let's all keep our mics muted so that we don't interrupt the speakers as they do their presentations. Thank you very much. Please, let's appreciate Prof. Anand for that presentation. Okay, so the next person to take the stage is somebody who is very well known in the nutrition fraternity. He's someone that I have worked very closely with for some time now. The gentleman I'm speaking about is an associate professor of public health nutrition at the University for Development Studies. He has been in the business of researching, mentoring students for over 20 years. He has made significant contributions to the advancement of human nutrition and public health in Ghana. He has provided consultancy services to various local, national, and international agencies on nutrition and health-related issues. He is a strong advocate for nutrition and public health and has engaged extensively with the media, communities, and social groups to promote positive change in nutrition. He holds a PhD in public health nutrition from the University of Southampton, UK, and also an MPhil in human physiology from the University of Ghana. He is none other than our very own Professor Paul Ama-Aye. He is our second speaker, and he is addressing the topic from label to table, how marketing regulations can shape healthy food environments and reduce NCDs. Please, let's welcome Professor Paul Ama-Aye as he takes the podium. And please, let's all do the needful. Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Cynthia, thank you very much. Right, Prof. Aye, you have the floor, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, Felicia. Thank you very much for the introduction. Please, can you share the slide? I'm having challenges sharing, so you share it. I'll have it here, but I can't share. So if you share the slide, I'll be very grateful for that. Right. Whilst Felicia is making efforts to share the slides, let me say good afternoon to all dear participants and dear listeners on the virtual meeting. I am very excited and very happy to make this presentation. The topic at stake is very critical and crucial for us and for our country also, because we know how important the issue of NCDs is to us. In fact, I don't know whether we know, everybody knows how important it is, but I know that as a nutrition fraternity, we are always bombarded with this top issue of NCDs. I personally had the opportunity to make a presentation on this particular area and look at the courses and so on and so on, and then the way forward. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'm hoping to make it a very short one because I don't have many slides. And I think Prof. Annan has done a great job. He has done a very good, underground, or should I say background on NCDs. So I don't want to get into that area. I want to start by making us aware of what food marketing really is. And I'm talking of food marketing, not just marketing. There's marketing in so many things, but I'll restrict it to food marketing. And we know how important, if we don't know at all, we should know that it's an important factor that will influence our eating behavior, or that has an influence on our, and I think Prof. Annan clearly illustrated it. And especially we're talking about children and adolescents. He clearly showed it on the various diagrams that he talked about. What is not clearly coming out is the influence that these these marketing strategies have on our pregnant women. We have never tried to look at pregnant women. I didn't bring it out in there, but I'm going to talk about it because that for me is a very important area or a very important stage of the life cycle where we need to address issues so that this NCD thing can be nipped in the bud. because we are always we're talking about children. It's good to focus on children, but where do the children come from? The other day, I was talking to some students and I asked them, the egg and the chicken, which one is more important? I'm not talking about the origin or, which one came first, because that issue has not been settled. It's still ongoing, but which is more important? And a lot of them actually concluded that it is the chicken which is more important, because the chicken lays the egg and the egg eventually becomes a chicken. But if the chicken does not lay a good egg, what kind of chicken are we going to get? So you need to focus on the chicken so that the eggs that the chicken is laying will be good eggs, so that we can have intergenerational improvements in the chickens that are going to be coming out. So for me, all these things we are talking about, we should also think, look behind and focus on pregnant women. That is one of my areas I want to really go into. Now, the food marketing is around us and can take on many forms. And I think Profana has illustrated that too. I don't want to belabor that. So it is important to be aware of the marketing and strategies, because it can influence your food choices and habits. And that one has also been illustrated. There are many foods and drinks that are marketed and can contribute to the they contribute to the high levels of intake of sodium, sugars, saturated fat, trans fatty acids, and so on. And then they also have an influence on our eating patterns, and so on and so forth. In fact, having said this, I want to draw your mind to something that we are talking about marketing and so on and so forth with regards to foods that have got specific, labels, and we can even determine what is happening to them. What happened, they are manufactured by industry. We forget that most of the foods that we eat are actually from the market, from actually the farm gate and the market, where there are no specific indications for the content and so on and so forth. We just go there, we buy. We go to the market, you want this, you buy. You don't have anything to look at. That is also a worry, even though we are talking, these are with reference to industrially produced foods. But in Ghana, it's not the major foods that we eat. They are not the industrially produced food, even though we should be concerned, because it's becoming something that is increasingly an issue, a problem. But most people take foods from the market, which are also very important to consider. And we as nutritionists should be looking in that direction as well. If we want a healthy food environment, the area that we should concentrate is not just on industries and industrial products, but the market, what goes to the market, and therefore from the farms and so on and so forth. This is why agri becomes very, very important. It has to be nutrition sensitive. Otherwise, all that we are doing and all that we are eating is not going to yield much for us in terms of the NCTs. We're not going to have any reduction. It's going to have a bearing on the NCTs that are going to emanate from our eating. So we need policies, regulatory policies. And because I'm talking about food, I'm looking at just food regulatory policies. And these can restrict the food producers. It can help in, make children reduce the children's exposure and limit the appeal and persuasive power of the marketing, for kids. So we need something that will regulate all these things, because as you heard from Prof, and the children are mostly affected, and they are the ones that we should focus. So all the regulatory policies and laws should be aimed at focusing on reducing the effect on children, in minimizing it, in restricting the where, the when, and so on and so forth, which he also alluded to. That is for important things. Now, I've cited a few examples here, as he did. I didn't bring the Korea example, but I have Chile here, who have we have a law that they are implementing or they have implemented, and that is one of the examples that Prof. cited, Chile. Then in Mexico and Peru, they also have a law on the promotion of a healthy diet. They have a law. It's not just something that is policy that is being spoken about. We haven't got such laws, and they have implemented it since 2019. And the areas are very similar to what Prof. Anna has spoken about. Their emphasis is mainly on the packaging of foods, and that is where my beef is. I'm talking about the first laws in Chile focus on mandatory, food. What do you call it? Sorry, labeling of food packages, mandatory, and then they regulated it. And some of the issues that Prof. Anna alluded to, having front of label package and of the package and having different colors and all kinds of shapes and so on, just to show people how to. And I'll talk about that when I look at the labels, then you understand what I'm talking about. Now, in Ghana, for instance, we don't have similar laws like in these other countries. But what we have is that we have primary laws and regulations that are mandated by the Public Health Act. Okay, and it mandates the Food and Drugs Authority, for instance, to have guidelines on food advertisement. The food advertisements should be guided, and all the things that Prof. Anna spoke about, the fact that there should be clarity, there should be consistent, there should be that kind of truth. They should not be lying. The claims should be clear. Some of the things that are being advertised are really something obnoxious, and they are really targeted at getting our children to be hooked onto substances that may eventually lead to the NCDs that we're talking about. So it's very important that we focus on these kids and we look at the laws that we have. Food, I was going to talk about the other one. Food and Drugs Authority are not the only ones who are mandated in this way. Since time immemorial, the Ghana Standard Authority has been mandated to look at a whole lot of a large list of items, including the labeling of materials, and that would include labels of food. They were supposed to look at food labels, and specifically, we know what is going on. They have been looking at them, but they really actually, I don't know how they implement it. We know what is going on with regards to food labels. There are all kinds of food labels, including the ones that come from outside that are written in different languages.
What did you press?
You understand. So all these things are not clearly that these food labels are not regulated. There is no strict regulation. There's no strict, and food advertisement is also ongoing. And Prof. Anna said that always aggressive and all sorts of things, targeting children, pregnant women, and adults, so that they can get at them and they can get them to dodge. So it's an issue that we should be concerned with. Now, what actually are food labels? Food labels are different types of information that may be available on food packages. You have different of food packages, and I'm talking about food packages. Here in the market and at the farm gate, there are no labels. And let's keep that in mind, because most of the foods that we take are from there as well. So what are we thinking about? What do we do? But where the supermarkets are concerned and other places, some other products in the market are concerned, which are from industrial productions, that we have labels on them available, information. Now, this information can help a person to make informed choices about healthy and safe foods. So when you look at the information, there are specific things on the information, the labels that can help you to make an informed choice as to whether the content of the food or the composition or whatever it contains is good enough for you, and so on and so forth. And these are some of the things that we have on the labels. We have nutrition facts table, the facts of nutrition. That is what are factual about I mean, the nutrients in the composition of the material or the food package. We have ingredient list. Some may have a list of ingredients, water, salt. They will have all of them, and they tell you about how much, what percentage of what total dietary value it is, and so on and so forth. Then they also have nutrition claims. Earlier I alluded to that. Nutrition claims that they are saying this product or this particular product, when you take it, it can affect A, B, or C in your body, or it can bring about some particular, and all kinds of things. So in the adverts and especially in the package, on the package, they write some of the things and allude to some of the effects that they can have on individual. And there are so many claims that are unfounded. And these ones are charlatanic in nature. They are charlatans. They're just deceptive. In fact, most of the time, some of these things are very deceptive. Not only in Ghana, even outside. I mean, most of the high-income countries, there are deceptive claims on the labels. So it's very important. Please, can you go back to the previous slide just for a second? Yeah. We are also looking at food allergen labeling. In some instances, you have gluten-free and so on and so forth be on the label to show that if you are allergic to these things, you shouldn't take them and so on. By the way, having food allergy is also a non-communicable disease. So we should be thinking about all these things. Now, then we have date labeling. Now, date labeling, unfortunately, is where we major. In fact, in Africa and Ghana, I mean, I can speak for Ghana. In Ghana, a lot of consumers who buy these packaged foods major in date labeling. They look at the date, best before, what date of manufacture, date of expiry, and so on and so forth. That's where we major. Please, next slide. Right. Thank you very much. Now, what is important with food label? And I've showed you all the things, legislation and laws about food labeling and so on. And in our case, what are we doing? But we should be thinking about it. But what is important for food labeling is that the food that we eat, the consume, the diet that we have, and the responsibility for our health can all be influenced by what goes on the nutrition fact sheet. So when you have a knowledge of what is on the fact sheet, it can influence your food intake, it can influence your food choice, it can influence your diet, and so on and so forth. Your responsibility for your health, because it's all about health anyway. Healthy living, healthy diet. Now, the nutrition, consciousness. Consciousness is about being able to decipher what is good and healthy as far as nutritious foods and diets are concerned. You have to be conscious. It is not just learning nutrition in school, but you have to be conscious, because a lot of people have gone to universities and done nutrition, but they are not nutrition conscious. And you have to be nutrition conscious because that is the critical skill that you need to ensure that what is on the label for you is translated to the table. And talking about translation from label to table, it means that you read the label and you are able to tell whether it has so much salt, so much sugar, so much whatever ingredient it contains, in order to know how to use it at table. So these are some of the things we are talking about. But the questions to ask is, are people actually reading the labels on food packages? When it comes to food packages and this manufactured products, are people actually reading the labels? The research that has been done in Ghana so far shows that not up to half of people are not reading. I mean, and most of the people who are involved in this kind of research are literate. Because if you are not literate, you can't read. And that is why some countries have resorted to, what do you call it? They are using certain signs and languages and so on. And if you can't read even English and they bring you Arabic, how can you read? I will bring you Chinese, how can you read? So the reading is an issue. Are people actually reading? Do they look at it and try to look at the nutrition label? How intimidating is it for them to go to a supermarket and start reading the label because people will think, hey, the guy, what is he doing? What, all those things are issues, But are people actually reading the labels on the food packages? That's a question. And it shows clearly that not very many are doing it. Sometimes, how often do they do it is also another question. Is it often read? Is it often that they do it? Some do it sometimes, some do it always, and so on. There are very few of them, actually. But they must be literate. Otherwise, you can't do it. If you go to the illiterate community, a few of none, almost up to none, will be doing the reading. Now, those who are reading, do they understand? Another question to ask. Do they understand the labels at all? So that's the question we need to be looking at. Is there any understanding? Because some people will read it and tell you something else if you ask them. And we have shown that people really do not understand what they are reading. A lot of people who actually read the label do not understand it. They may understand some of the things depending on what is being said, being written there, but they don't really understand something like RDA. The RDAs, for instance, are issues that a lot of people do not know, but our RDV and so on and so forth. Recommended daily allowance or daily values and so on, which people may not understand, and you can't go there and be explaining things to them. It's very important. Those are the things. Now, what are their major concerns about the labels? What are their major concerns? Some go to look at the labels, and their concern mainly is about when is this food wholesome, or when is this viable up to? They're looking at the expiry date. That is one of the things we found in our research. We showed that most of them who say they are reading the labels are actually looking at expiry date. When is it going to expire? And for them, that alone is enough to purchase the product. So expiry date, which is the date of manufacture date that is to be out of what the manufacturing and so on and so forth. Very important though, but there are also other concerns. People do not really look at it in their way others do. But when you are going to buy foods that are changed, for instance, the other concerns are most of the time these are dented. Most of the time they are dented. And some people will tell you that dented things are not very wholesome. I mean, they don't control wholesome food. And that is also another concern. And so, but who are you going to complain to? I mean, there's a lot of other issues that come with labels and food purchases, especially when it comes to these manufactured food or industrial food. Can we go to the next slide? Now, from label to table means that you are understanding, you are reading, you have assimilated all that is on the label, and you know that when you take it to your table, it's going to help. When you use it to cook, to prepare your food for the table, it will be wholesome. You are going to have a normal, food that will prevent you from having disease. But like I said, the nutrition consciousness is imminent. If you are not nutrition conscious, you are not going to look at salt. For instance, how much salt is involved in the diet. Recently, we heard that some people did some experiments on Nestle foods and found out that they are adding too much sugar to those foods that are prepared in Ghana. We have not noticed it. We don't know about it. It's hard to take some people from outside somewhere to be able to say that, yes, Nestle is trying to kill our children by putting too much sugar in the baby foods and so on. But we have been using it for a long time now. The baby foods are sugared. They have a lot of sugar in them. We are being hooked on sugar. Coca-Cola is hooking children on sugar, but nobody is complaining. Nobody is saying anything. I mean, the regulators are there. They are not regulating anything. They allow everything to go. It's all about money. The buyer who calls the pipe, who pays the piper, he calls the tune, and they pay them. So they are calling whatever it is. Like Prof said, it's all over the place. They are doing every false, and whatever it is to attract our children and our pregnant women. That is something for us to look at. What are the setbacks? The setbacks are that people must be educated we must try to find a way of getting people to understand labels, and that is where our HD4, also is it HD4HL? H4, sorry, healthy diet for healthy lives, right? That is where they come in, where we are looking at how we can bring out certain policies and try to see how it can be enforced or can be implemented by, I don't know where it can be enacted first into laws so that consumers can have a respite from some of the things that we are looking at. Then we are also looking at how a lot, the regulators will focus more on food labels, not on other labels, because food is critical. The food labeling is critical for our nutrition. And so if we don't look at it, we'll be poorly nourished whilst we are looking at other things, which are not really, very important to focus on. So we need to bring that out and make it very clear. We all know about the sugar sweetened beverage and how we made noise and all that. Now we have a fiscal policy on that. So it's important, it behoves on all of us to focus on some of these things so that we can bring out a lot of regulations, a lot of policies, and we can focus on these policies and get them enacted into law. And I think HD4HL is doing a great deal, and then the A4L, A for health or life, okay, advocacy for health, is doing also a marvelous job. We are all in it. We are trying to get to that point where food will be regulated. Now, what is our role as nutrition practitioners in this situation? I've given you some insights and what we can do, but I want us to take a second look at this issue that I raised earlier on. It's about the actual reasons or the actual people who are supposed to be cautioned or to be educated with regards to labels, from label to table, are those who are actually buying their foods from the from the market and from the farm gate. They go to other people and buy and bring it to the market, and people go to buy. There are no labels there. So in actual fact, from farm to table or from farm to fork is where we need to also focus. So that where there's no label, we are focusing on farm to fork. We need to look at it where healthy diets are concerned. We need to also expatiate on the foods that people are eating and getting from the market. Now, I can assure you the kind of food that people eat in the market and in the various food joints and so on are foods that are bought from the market, not from supermarket. So we need to concentrate not just on having people to know how to read labels and to translate it into their table, but how to also know the importance of what they are buying in the market and how we can translate to the table. Otherwise, the NCDs, we will not get where we want to get to, because the number of people who are consuming foods that are labeled are not as many as those who are consuming unlabeled foods. So we need to look at it as nutritionists. We need to look at all these areas and concentrate so that we can bring this NCD burden very down. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. And I think we should also concentrate on our pregnant women, because that is where the whole issue begins. Not just children, but pregnant women, and when they are in utero, we need to ensure that they don't start the effect of NCDs from there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Ali, for this insightful presentation. I mean, for me, the fact that we should not gloss over pregnant women is something that was very striking. Right, so we are at the point where we would be inviting questions from our participants, please. I would like to ask that if you have a question, you can either type it in the chat box or you humbly raise your hand, then I would invite you to speak so that it can be orderly. All right. And once you are done speaking, you kindly lower your hand so that it doesn't confuse the moderator. Also, I would plead that we make our submissions straight to the point so that as many of us can ask our questions. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Prof. Ayi. Thank you, Prof. Annan. So questions time. If you have a question, let's hear you. You can raise your hand whilst we wait for people to organize their questions and submit them. I have a few questions. And so I would like to find out from Prof. Reginald Annan. I mean, in your submission, you did indicate that marketing strategies or the marketing style that these big techs are using is affecting children. And you stated that the marketing effects targets children and adolescents who are most vulnerable. In fact, the Catch Me Young thing. I would like to find out how do you think that as nutritionists and dietitians, what do you think we should do in this aspect? Looking at the fact that you actually clearly stated that we have a perception that plumpy babies are healthier babies. And so with that kind of notion, and some of the times we those in the health system are those that in fact push that agenda and encourage people to do the opposite things that are a bit harmful. What should we do as nutritionists and dietitians, looking at the advertisement that is going on? I'm in my small corner. What should I do? Hello?
Yeah, the question is going to
Prof. Annan.
Okay. Prof, are you there?
He's not there. Okay, so Prof. Ayi, you mentioned that the foods that we are eating, the majority of Ghanaians are eating, are not those that are the labeled ones, the supermarket ones. These are the
Yes.
ones that are from the farm gates, right? So these
Yeah.
are unlabeled. How will I, as a nutritionist, listening to you now and feel burdened with all the information I have, how do I act?
Yes. Like I said, I mentioned something about nutrition consciousness. And we know information is powerful. If you have information, if I say information is powerful, I'm talking about knowledge. For lack of knowledge, my people perish. We all know about that. So sometimes it's about knowledge. People are not knowledgeable on these facts. So for me, I think that at this stage where we are now, it's about advocacy. Advocacy until we get to a stage where we can push it as a policy. We can promulgate the policies. Now, if you look at the sugar sweetened beverage thing, how we got to that stage, it started for a long time. A lot of issues came up and so on. And some of us have been pushing that agenda for a very long time. You know it, you know me. I've been talking about it. I never probably was mentioning sugar sweetened beverage, but I've been talking about it, talking about sodas, talking about the sugared local drinks and so on that we take because it's too much sugar. And that was a long time. We touting it as very unhealthy until said that it masked up and we came together. And remember before the fiscal policy on sugar sweetened beverage was passed, we had some campaigns and we led a group of conscious people to go around and campaign in town and talk to people and tell people how important it is to curtail or to bring about these policies so that it will reduce intake and so on and so forth. The question is still, has it reduced intake? Because look, there are a lot of people who don't know how many sugars are contained in Coke, for instance, or in Fanta. They don't know. They don't know that it has a lot of sugar. the number of cubes. So if you tell them how many cubes of sugar is in it or how many teaspoons, they will open their mouth and look at you. Knowledge is not there. All we are looking at is how to hook us onto these products. And so we need to also go there with knowledge. We need to be knowledgeable. As nutritionists, when you go on any, what do you call it, crusade, I won't say crusade, on any platform to go and advocate, you must be knowledgeable. Don't go and talk about things as if you don't know anything about nutrition. Arm yourself with the knowledge. And a lot of the time, most people who do, when you don't have the knowledge, you are afraid to go on board. It's just like preaching. If you don't know the Bible or the Quran, you can't preach. What are you going to be talking about? The same thing over and over. No, you have to quote verses and so on. The same thing with nutrition now. We need to advocate. We need to know what we are talking about. Otherwise, you will not be making any inroads. Even on labels, a lot of people don't know it. I'm talking about label reading, label understanding. So if we were to ask our people who are currently, in the virtual platform we have now, there are a lot of people who, if they admit that they don't read labels, they don't even understand. All nutritionists, I'm talking about nutritionists. I think that's going to be my next research. Look at the nutritionists themselves, whether they actually understand what they are supposed to do. Because it's a problem. Otherwise, we will not make any inroads. I'm telling you, we will not get anywhere. We will be going in cycles and be there. Gand cannot do that. We need to push forward. This is an agenda that has to be pushed. And like Prof. Annan said, we have to push it and make sure that the government takes a better step. Right now, Food and Drugs Authority and Standards Board, they are sleeping. They are sleeping. Look at all the things that are happening. They are virtually sleeping. All they have is a podium, or should I say a room where monies are collected. That's all. Go and do your advert. Bring the money. Pay this. And that's it. And that's what's going on. Nobody is protecting anybody. We don't have consumer protection. Do we have consumer protection in this country? If we do, then they are not working. Because there are some of these things you can take up. Or maybe they go up and there's no law to back them. So they will just, they just slip by. I don't know if I answered the question. Have I?
You have.
I wanted to attempt something on the Prof. Annan's the issue. Has he come back? Is he there? Prof. Annan?
I can see him.
I'm here.
Right.
A question was asked. You go ahead then. There was a question. I don't know whether they will repeat the question so that you answer. About the fat children.
So the question was, now that you've made it known that these marketing companies are targeting children and adolescents. Exactly. In our regulations, what provisions have been made to ensure that these things are curtailed? Or is it that we are not monitoring enough, or we are not making noise enough? I saw that for the alcohol, there is a time limit that alcoholic beverages cannot be advertised. But for the other food beverages, we are not seeing anything like that. So I just want to find out what is being done in that space. Oh, please. Can you mute yourself, please?
Wait.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think I can answer now. It's quiet.
Okay. Thank you. Please go ahead.
So really, you know that, and I when Prof. I was talking, he was mentioning FDA, and it's all about what your policies, the country policies say, and what our laws say. So what we are currently pushing for within Gand, the Ghana Public Health Association, and also the National NCD Alliance, these three organizations that work together on the advocacy for health and also the HD4HL project. What we are pushing for is to have policies on everything. So your policies actually provide a framework for what others, how people should behave, including the food industry. And so if your policies don't provide the framework, then people can do what they want or do the wrong things. Now, you start with policies. Eventually, you want to enact laws when really you can see that people are enforcement of the policy becomes a problem. But you start with policies, and it creates that environment. What I want us to know is that hitherto we've not, even WHO, you will see that in quite recent times that they have now brought out the issue of the industry targeting children and appealing their marketing to children and adolescents in order to catch them. And I even said that tobacco used it. You understand? So the WHO, even others are now, this is becoming clearer and clearer and are pushing that, look, there must be stricter laws. There must be stricter regulations. And so Ghana, we have a long way to go. We first of all must have policies on all these issues, including marketing. Then we must have either policies and laws that also provide what restrictions should be done as far as marketing to children is concerned. So when you talk about the alcohol law policy on advertising, you mentioned that it's 8 p.m. Yes, so that is what FDA says. You can't market, you can't advertise alcohol before 8 p.m. Then now we are saying that it should shift to like 11 p.m. because children are still awake at 8 p.m. So those are the things that now you must look at, what even the policies you have already, how, whether they are children friendly and whether they address the peculiar needs of children. If they don't, you push for them to also encompass that. So policies around advertising in schools, what school cafeterias can sell, and what billboards, how close your billboard on, let's say, a sugar sweetened beverage should be to a school, are also not there. So you will see that you can see a sugar sweetened beverage that's quite close to a school. It's on the way to the school. But there should be policies that say that like within 1 kilometer, it cannot be, so that children don't see it on their way. And so those are the things that we have to get to as a country in trying to address this problem with advertising to children. Because you see, adults can really decipher sometimes. When they are informed, they can choose. But children really can't decipher. And so they are targeted.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have a few
just
questions.
a little comment.
Okay.
Just a comment on what Reggie has just said. The original no problem. I think policies are very, very important and very good, and I think they are also informed by what we are doing as groups, who are very knowledgeable on the particular topic that we are discussing. So we need to push as a group. But one thing is for sure, there are already some issues or policies that are written in the books of most of these regulatory bodies. They are there, and they are using it. So if I say they are using it, I mean it's there, it's written. But the implementation of the policy is what is lacking, or what is lackadaisical. Implementation, this issue that Reggie is talking about, is there. Regulation of what do you call it? Advertisement in schools and close to schools, and so it's there in the books. If you look at the FDA guidelines on advertisements on food, it's all there, written there. But who is implementing it? Who is enforcing it? That's the whole thing. We, as for Ghana, we have a lot of policies and whatnot that are very nicely written and they are stuck in our books. But who is enforcing it? This fiscal policy we moved, and then it was enacted into, is it a law or bill? Well, sorry, correct me. I don't know which one to say. Was it a law or an airline? The fiscal policy on sugar sweetened beverage. Who is implementing it? You can go around and see. There's a high proliferation of sugar sweetened beverages that are going seriously against the bill or the policy. A lot. If you go into town, you see there are even coming more sugar sweetened beverages and caffeinated and, or what do you call it? Energy drinks. They are all over the place. As for me, Tamale, I know what I'm talking about. It's there. You go and the thing that is supposed to tax the thing is not on it. They are evading tax because they are coming from neighboring countries and they are being sold. Who is implementing? Who is regulating? Who is seeing to the whatever it is? That is another issue. We are very good when we catch one or two people, then they will use them. But who goes around? Who ensures that these things are not done the way they should be done? So that is a question of regulation and implementation. That is all we need. We will force for the policies to be put in the books or to be put down. But who is going to enforce it? It behoves on all of us. That's why we need to take the lead by informing people, educating people on these issues. Then as we go ahead, people will now see the need to be watchers and keepers of their own nutrition.
Right. So we have a question on the chat box. It says that how do we explain to the general public during nutrition and health education when they make mention of the chemicals used on farm produce, especially fruits and vegetables, because we mostly advise them to consume these for their good health? He says to any of the speakers, please.
Okay, maybe I'll attempt this one before he comes in. Now, the questioner is talking about is strictly a food safety issue. A food safety issue. In fact, there are so many of those issues that squarely counts under food safety. But the thing is, look, when we say food safety in Ghana here, nutritionists are not in the picture. It goes directly to a particular area, agricultural, whatever it is, and that's where they talk about food safety. But for me, as a nutritionist, I think it falls squarely in our domain. Food safety, because it affects nutrition. I mean, seriously affects nutrition. For example, what he has talked about, if the chemicals are put on the food, who is going to be affected? Whose nutrition? Your physiology, your anatomy, everything is going to be affected. So we should take concern about that. We should educate people, educate the agriculture. Look, even fertilizer. I personally believe that fertilizers are not so good. It's not all the fertilizer we should be using. In the past, in the olden times or the earlier times, our forebears were using different ways of, ensuring that the soil was fertile. Maybe we can say that we are growing in numbers and so on, but we're not doing that. We're not using all those methods. We want fertilizer to put in, and there's a catch, there's a caveat in using fertilizers, but we don't get it. Look, apart from that, we are using condemn. Now there's condemn all over the place. Condemn is glyphosate, the substance that is used to, is a herbicide or what we call weedicide. Let me put it that way. It will kill the weeds and so on and so forth. Look, initially, people were skeptical about the use of it, but they were using it anyway. Now it has become apparent and very clear that glyphosate is carcinogenic. It can lead to cancer. So when you are spraying your weeds and whatnot, and some of it is getting into the fruits, you are having the potential cancer forming foods. That's what you are getting. The chemicals we use on our foods, most of them have potential not just on fruits and vegetables. We use some in the preparation, colors and so on. The colors, the so-called E numbers, whatever you put in our food, some of them have cancer-producing properties. We need to interrogate all these and come out clearly and let people know that, look, these things they are doing is not good. I remember very well when we were Ghana Nutrition Association, the issue of tomato paste came about. People were saying, oh, tomato paste. Look, when we interrogated it, even the Ghana Food and Drug Authority people were trying to defend the issue. We said, what? You can't call this tomato paste. Tomato paste should have about 80% or more of tomatoes in it. But if you have tomato paste and there is just about 15 or 13% of the product is on, the rest is starch and other things, added colors and so on, what are you doing to us? So it became a tussle. Eventually, they called it tomato mix. Go to the market today, you see tomato mix. Because you can't call it tomato paste. What you are doing is not tomato paste. You are killing us. It's a lie. They are claiming things, and then, so these are the issues. We need to tackle them one by one. I can go on and on. There are so many products there that need to be, confronted. And we are the ones who will do that, because it infringes on our, not just our right, but our nutritional, what do you call it? Habit, our nutritional efforts. Thank you very much. Profana.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah. Yes.
No, I'm
Prof.
here. I think you've answered. Okay, so maybe if there are more questions, but I know that the questioner is asking that there's supposed to be a lot of nutrition education. That should also be the work that we do as individual nutritionists, dietitians, public health practitioners, but also as Gand Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. We must rise up to the challenge to educate the people. Once the people are educated and aware, that's when the consumer protection comes, because they themselves rise and also to fight some of these things and ask for changes.
Yeah, Felicia, someone has raised their hand.
Okay, so Frank, please, you have the floor.
Yes, so thank you very much. As Prof. I rightly mentioned, and I would want to make a contribution to that issue of the use of chemicals, whether agrochemicals, to grow vegetables and fruits, which is a big issue for us in practice. It's one of the biggest headache, and as Prof. I rightly said, it falls beyond our jurisdiction. I mean, it boils down to the authorities that are in charge of trying to regulate some of these agro processes. But practically, what I usually advise my patients to do, one, to encourage them to grow their vegetables, especially with vegetables. I mean, there are backyard gardens. I know it's worked in the past and it is now working. Even when you travel to very developed cities, especially, they are encouraging people to grow. So one of the practical ways you can actually advise your patient when these things come out is to consider growing some of these vegetables that we use daily. It's very practical. The other thing I usually advise them to do is to buy from places where they can trust. Of course, there are people who are doing it, and we know, but then there are people who are also abiding. So one of the practical ways I advise is to look out for places where they think or they can ascertain, because it's a big problem which is really, really way beyond the dietitians and the nutritionists, especially when it comes. But it's a problem because, as the person who asked the question rightly said, they ask us, we tell them to eat it. They ask us. So these are some two practical ways I usually deal with wherever I go to give nutritional education or nutritional talk, or in the consulting when I see patients, I ask them to. So at least it is something that they can do in the interim, whilst the authorities that are involved, who are responsible actually for some of these safety practices. As Prof. I rightly say, it's serious food safety issue. So these are some practical ways we can approach some of these things for the meantime as we wait for these regulations to be enforced. Yeah.
Yeah, Frankie, just to add something small, when it comes to the issue of vegetables and fruits, you can also ask the patients or whoever the clients are to wash them thoroughly. I think that's one of the instructions that is given in the catering department or the catering field, where you have fruits and vegetables, wash them thoroughly, maybe with some vinegar or with some salt and so on. You wash vegetables and fruits and whatnot. In fact, we should be advising that. But the question will also be, where is the water? That's another question, because sometimes people don't have the water. But at least, where there's water, people must wash their vegetables, and irrespective of where they buy them. It is part of the instructions in using vegetables and fruits. And so as we encourage people to do it, we must also advise them to wash, because you never know where the food or the fruit is coming from. Yeah.
Right. We have your name is it Canada Ghana Newt? Your hand is up. If you can hear me, you have the floor, please. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
To our speakers for excellent presentation. Just wanted to add to what Dr. Hayford and I believe one of the speakers asked regarding vegetables and fruit. There is an organic body that is currently in Ghana trying to teach individuals how to do backyard garden in an organic way without the use of these harsh pesticides and so forth. So,
oh, please go ahead. Sorry. Oh, please, there's somebody interrupting her.
To our patients. Yes, the water.
Oh, we are losing you.
Yeah, but there is an organic body. I think it would be great for Ghana with this organic body called.
I think I have lost her. I don't know if everybody has everyone else have lost her. I can't hear her anymore. Can you hear me, please? Yes, I think I am clear. So if she gets to join, I'll give her the chance. All right, so you have lost her too. I mean, we have just a few more minutes. If you have any question, you can raise your hand and have your take. Yeah. We just have about less than 5 minutes. Okay, I can't see any question in the chat box now. Yeah, so somebody is saying that we have a lot of work to do. How many consumers know that tomato mix is not the same as tomato paste? Wow. Yeah, and so that's very true. I wanted to find out, besides the known bodies that are fronting the campaign, okay, such as our own Gand and then the HD4HL and Kappa. I want to know, as individuals, and that's to both presenters, what opportunities exist for we dietitians and nutritionists to explore so that we can drive home this message, besides just sitting in our consulting rooms and in our various facilities and offices? What is the broader picture? Which areas, what strategies should we employ?
Okay, so let me just say that, and I tell the students and also others who are nutritionists that it is not only just sitting in your consulting room or at your workplace or in the classroom teaching about these things. We must also be out there. We must be in the media houses when are the opportunities, because they call for us sometimes and they want us to come and speak on things. We must go and do it. We must also request to go and see them. Sometimes if you do a research or you have something you want to talk about, that we are all in different regions and there are radio stations. If you contact them that I want to come and speak on this topic, they all have health related programs, and they will be willing to let you. Anytime we have gone here in Kumasi, they are happy for us to come and then talk on a topic that is of interest. So that's one of the ways that we can engage the public. But when it comes to engaging at the national level, then of course, if the country needs something, would they call us as experts? It means that we have shown ourselves at that level that we are experts. That's why they will call us. On the road to doing that, we must engage the public generally and the media people and all that. SSB program, we did training for media on these things. So when you call them and you give them some training, then they will be out there also speaking on our behalf. And I think that we must be out. We must also be politicians. It's part of our work. Be politicians.
Thank you, Prof. Ayi. If you would want to have a take at this as well.
Yes, I think a lot has been said by Prof. Anna, but I just wanted to, of course, I mean, I just came from a radio station this morning. I'm sure you listened to this.
Yes, I did. Yes,
and
I did.
we talked so much about some of these aspects. It's a very important thing. Prof. Anna said, we must look for the opportunity. Sometimes the radio station will not come to you. You have to go to them. Let's look for it. But in all that, you should be knowledgeable. Please, if you don't know what you are going to talk about at the radio station, don't go. Don't go and just beat about the bush there. We want seriousness and knowledge. So you need to read and ask people to explain. Because look, it is serious business we are talking about. These issues we are talking to you about now are serious issues that you need to delve into. You may not necessarily be an expert in that area, but when you read, you understand. You read in between the lines, you see what is going on. And then when you get there, you can talk about them with authority. And that's what they want sometimes. Most of the time when you go to a station to talk about any issue and you don't have any authority on it, you wobble on the thing and they say, what is this person talking about? The listeners don't even take interest. But when you talk with that confidence, everybody knows that, yes, you know what you are talking about. And that's what we are talking. And me, my students, they know me. Anytime I enter the class, they know that I'm going to give it to them as I usually do. Now, one other thing, just a small thing that I want to say is this. And I think Prof. Anna alluded to it, is that in as much as we want to change the landscape and we want to engage the public and so on and so forth, I think we should have, Ghana has got that capacity. We should have a group within to churn out publications, or should I say, what materials that can be published in the newspaper. We can publish this in the newspapers, in the local newspapers, or have them read for us on the radio station or wherever. Like, like publications that come out. This is what is going on, this is that, and so on. And people will read. Some people will just read those things and know that there's something going on. I have a typical example to cite. I wrote something for the Catholic Church. They were doing their 75th anniversary. They were doing it in Tamale here. And then there was this brochure that they were making. And one guy approached me that he wanted me to write something on nutrition in the era of the coronavirus, disease. And I wrote, in fact, everybody was impressed. Those who read it, they came to me and said, wow. Because I was talking about the fact that immunization is dependent on your nutritional status. If you think that immunization will save you, you are wrong. If you don't have a good immune system, which is fostered by having good nutrition, your immune system is dependent on your nutrition, not on the immunization that you get. If you don't have that, they will immunize you and you will die, because the immunization or the material that has been put into you will kill you. And that's what we saw. A lot of people who went to do the immunization were dying of all kinds of things. So it is something that we need to do. We need to explain things. We need to broadcast. We need to do every avenue we get. We need to say something. And I think gradually it will make that impact. But if we sit in our home, like in our consulting room and so on, we're not doing that much, then we are not going to make any impact. But I think the products that are coming out from our universities now, we have a lot of nutrition training schools and so on. If we focus on them, we have a critical mass of them who will get into the various areas and produce or have an influence on what we are talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are almost out of time, but we have our president, Professor Preku. His hand is up. I'll give him the last take, and then we'll wrap this whole webinar. Prof. Prekon, please, you have the floor. Hello? Okay, so I think he's not here. Prof. Kingsley? Presdo? Okay, right. He's not responding to my call. I can't see any other hand besides that one. Right. So on this note, I would want to thank us all. Okay, yes, Prof.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So the last question is what I would want to come in. But first, let me say thank you to Professor Sahi and Prof. Anand for the insightful presentation. I think that we as nutritionists have a core responsibility. As we said, especially a gatekeeper as far as ensuring optimal nutrition for all Ghanaians is concerned. All these, even as we look at the bigger picture of activities, we should be very much mindful of what is happening around our own communities. Luckily, we nutritionists are represented almost in every single district of the country. So each area that we find ourselves is more of a catchment area where we can disseminate information. The media, from my experience with the A4H project,
Prof. Kingsley, we can't hear you again.
hello?
Okay, yes, now you are back.
Okay, so sorry. A lot of churches, mosque, and many other sects are looking out for people to just come and tell them something about nutrition that they are not getting. I would plead that wherever we find ourselves, we can make that impact from there. And another important area we are neglecting is our
We are losing you.
young children. The PTAs are all other information with. At school I got to, the people are kind of, the parents bring fruits and then one parent volunteer to cut fruits for the children at the school. And that alone makes a lot of difference. So we can start somewhere, and one of the places we should be able to establish nutrition clubs, for example, in our basic schools, in our kindergartens and whatever. So the children will grow with it. Now, most of us, our mouth is so sugar sweetened already. It's salt adapted already. So if you say you should even moderate your intake of sugar and salt, it becomes a problem for us. But the children, we can make a lot of influence from that level coming up. And these are ways we can do that. Of course, other aspect has to be with identifying like groups that have resources. We may not have the funding resource, but we can identify with other funding sources where we can tap in, collaborate on. Importantly, we should be able to research and come up with certain fact sheets and position papers as a nutrition organization that is so interested in Ghana's nutrition and the way forward. So I believe these are some critical things we should be thinking of and working towards as professional groups that are within the country. And as individuals, Profai has said much, we need to update ourselves. Now there's a lot of courses online you can do if you don't even understand the issues of nutrition. There's a lot. You go to WHO website, there is a lot of courses there. ANH Academy also have a lot of courses. You can do many of these courses just to build up your capacity in these areas. Thank you, and thanks all for making this possible.
Thank you very much for the inputs. Very, very valuable take-home notes from our president, Professor Kingsley Prekom. We are very grateful for that. And so our time is up. I will not be able to take any more, but I would like to thank everybody for making time out of our very busy schedules to hook on to our webinar this afternoon, most especially to our panelists, Professor Reginald Annan and Professor Paul Ayi. We are very, very grateful to you for the knowledge you have shared with us and for the nuggets you have given us as well. Our participants, I want to appreciate you all for staying through, even though the beginning we had a lot of challenges, especially from my end. I apologize for that, and I thank you for your patience and cooperation. Like I did indicate, I'm told that this webinar is not, we are not registering, so there isn't any registration form for the webinar. It's a free webinar, right? So let's take notice of that. So as we take our leave, I would like to remind us that as nutritionists and dietitians, it is very important that we are up to the game. We need to keep ourselves informed so that we can speak with the needed authority and confidence when we are called upon, and also to deliver whenever we are asked to. Then also, Prof. Anand did indicate that we need to become food politicians, and I think that was very, very catchy for me. We don't leave the politics to only partisan politics. We should also carve that space for food and nutrition politics, and then we become the champions of that so that we can drive the discourse in the right direction. Then also, let's bear in mind that there's so much opportunity for us to act, and we can explore several of them, including what Prof. Preco indicated. Let's explore nutrition clubs in the basic schools and kindergartens. I mean, so that we can also catch them young and inculcate good habits into them. And lastly, let's take up courses. There are a lot of free online courses that we can take up, and then also build our capacities to deliver on very key matters that pertains to the growth and development of our countries. And lastly, let's look out and partner. Let's partner more. Let's not sit in our small corners and think that there is nothing we can do. They are not involving us. If they don't involve you, involve yourself. Create a demand for yourself wherever you are. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and God bless us all. As we close with a closing prayer. Father, we thank you so much for your time this evening. We thank you for the wealth of knowledge that you have given us. Help us to be able to follow through and become disciples of good nutrition, so that this and many others we ask through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you everyone for staying through. We appreciate you. We love you. And Gand says, please come on board. Come on board. Together we stand, and together we can make it better. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Somebody's asking for a registration link.
There's no registration, Prof. Hey, Statina, so you were there. I didn't. Hey, let me stop this recording.
Don't mind, she's quiet there. She's enjoying
Yes.
everything quietly. Yeah.
She
Is
didn't.
Helen too? Is Helen there?
I didn't see Helen. I only
She
saw
was there. He was there
Alice.
from the beginning. Yeah, she's there. He's there.